All right. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand up.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you like a prayer?
Oh Lord, as we gather this day to do the important business for the people of the village of Owego, grant us wisdom, compassion, and understanding. Amen.
Amen. Okay, first item is the public hearing for local law number 1, community choice aggregate. I don't know if that's where the law is probably. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So, I know we have one at least, right? So you can go ahead.
Okay.
My name is Jerry Wiley. I live in the village of Owego for the last 15 years. And I do wish to speak on the mega plan to asking village trustees to form a community choice aggregation. I did send each of you, I tried to send each of you, I hope I had your addresses right, a copy of about a 12-page document that kind of sums up the most salient points in relation to why I think the trustees should vote no on this request to form a local law. There are many other reasons to say no, but I was trying to choose the most salient ones. I've been following, I'm an energy navigator for various groups in the southern tier. I've been following MEGA around to different meetings, sometimes maybe not, well, asking questions that maybe they would rather not be answering. So I got a pretty good picture, and they were amenable to public comment over the years. Mainly when they first engaged with you, you were kind of at the end of that pool of people they were aggregating, but they were amenable to public comment, and they did try to give us a menu of options rather than one standard round fossil fuel option like NYSEG offers customers. But I don't know if that holds to this day, because when I looked at the latest video from your last meeting, thank you very much for posting those.
Hopefully we have better sound on this one.
It was wonderful sound on my computer.
Oh, good.
And I was able to see that there was absolutely zero focus on any of the community's input. And I don't know if there was all that much input besides mine a couple of years ago here in terms of renewable energy. Mainly, the reason a CCA, community choice aggregation, was developed in 2007 by Paul Fenn it's a vehicle to advocate the elimination of carbon and nuclear energy sources and to spur the creation of thousands of jobs through the local build-out of renewable energy. And that's the intent of the community choice aggregation. It depends on the values of the community. There are no, although there's no attempt to survey what those values of the community are, and I don't know if you were asked as trustees to say, what do you want? Do you want renewable? Do you want all nuclear? Do you want all fossil fuel? What is it that you want? So I asked, were you asked that question? Because the most important thing is be careful what you aggregate for. If you're aggregating for, let's say, food, okay, and you bring down the price of food, and later on the residents find out that you've aggregated for Twinkies and soda, that down the line doesn't support the role that you should take as a board in providing and protecting for the public good, then that's not what you want to be aggregating for. And the same thing with electrons. It's not simply a matter of electrons. It's a difference between 78% fossil nuclear mix or 100% renewable. That's a huge difference. And you know what? It's just a fraction of a penny different per kilowatt hour. So like, why would you not aggregate for something that's going to work toward reduced flooding, drought, and other extreme weather effects that, if any of you follow the IPCC reports, which come out every few years, but the latest one is more publicized than they usually are. And so people are really more aware now that we only have a decade to really turn it around, you know, and we don't even have the hokey pokey, I don't think, to do that. So we have to be pretty fast in getting it turned around, and we're not going to be doing that by aggregating something that exacerbates climate change. I'm going to pass these around because there are further thoughts. Since you have this the same night as the intended vote, unless you skim, read, and understand really quickly, you may not get much out of it. But they are really, this is a really important subject, because once you aggregate for it, it's very hard to pull it back. The default option is then what it is for a long time for a lot of people. And that pushes energy in a particular direction, like I said. First of all, why would you want to aggregate first and spend all the time in your busy days? I'm sure you have other things to do with customers' questions about, like, why are we doing this? Why was my bill changed? Why? When the price of electricity supply is the lowest it's been in 15 years, and Louise Gava said that last week. Why would you aggregate for something that's the lowest it's ever been? You need aggregation for something that's too high priced, but something we need, right? Let's see. Other better options are available. My goodness, right now you can sign up for a community solar farm. You can do that tonight when you go home and get 10% not only off of your supply, but also off delivery. So that's going to be a higher amount, or lower depending on the way you look at it, for you than this deal or for anybody else. Gaskill Road, I called Delaware River Solar today to see where that process is on coming online on Gaskill Road. I know it's outside the village, but anybody in NYSEG Zone C can, subscribe to it. Anybody. It doesn't have, I subscribe to one in Newfield, and that's in Zone C. It could be anywhere in Zone C. And you get 10% off supply and delivery. So why not do that when it moves us toward a more, it won't be immediate, but we have to pull down that carbon. And methane spiked so many times in 2018. It's just, it's not looking good. So there are other options, and the whole point of all this is values of community. It says this is community choice. There's an opt-out letter that has to be completed before you vote on it, and if you don't know what you're voting for, and if you don't know that you're going to have one option or you're going to have a menu of options like we were promised at many of the town and village meetings, then how do you write your opt-out letter? And how will the people, I just don't know how that's going to be worked. The best case scenario is you beg Mega to like do 100% renewable default. Why not? It's only a half a penny less than the brown nuclear option. It's a reasonable choice, and it pushes us in the direction of saving our this planet for our children. I guess that's the most salient thing. Does anybody have questions? Either as a result of having maybe hopefully looked at this in terms of what we now have with NYSEG and how it might differ. I mean, this is not, information isn't easy to gain. That chart for NYSEG, they don't want you to know that they're going backwards in the amount of renewables. 2009 was their highest. They're now below 18%. We're going in the wrong direction. We don't want to exacerbate that. So, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you on that. But I ask, please, to vote no. There are other, by the way, there are other municipalities, as you probably know, who have who kind of been timed out because they're going to bid, and you had to do it, like you said, tonight, or you miss out. But Louise was going to see if you could opt in later if you wish. I recommend at least to say no tonight with further questions and consideration later, if you wish. Thank you.
Anybody else for the public hearing?
I'm Doug Barton, I represent Mega, and I also am from Owego, for those of you that may not know me. The importance of passing the local law tonight, and then the resolution, which covers the opt-out letter and the education portion, it allows you to be a part of the bid that's going out in February, early February. And it by no means commits the village to this program. It just puts you in the mix. It keeps you in the ball game. If you don't pass this tonight, you're not going to be in the ball game at all. If in a month or 2 months, when the final bid comes in and it's presented to you, and you don't care for it, you don't like it, or you've had time to reconsider some of the important information that Ms. Wiley passed along to you, you can just say we're out. And there's no obligation. There's no financial obligation. There's no other sort of obligation. So all you're really doing tonight is keeping the village in the CCA ballgame and not making any other commitment other than that. The resolution letter that's passed tonight basically talks about the fact that we're going to set up an education program which Mega is responsible for. So when Ms. Wiley suggested that you're going to be answering all these questions about what's this program about, that's really not the case. There will be public meetings set up specifically for people to come in and have Mega answer the questions that might come up through the questions that they might have. Talks about the fact that we haven't surveyed residents. Well, no, we didn't, but I also don't think the residents have been surveyed about wanting 100% renewable today. That survey hasn't been done. Again, we're just giving people the opportunity to get into this program. Once you should sign up for the program, the opt-out letter that you're going to agree to in the next few weeks. It's just a letter making it very simple for the residents. They'll receive it and they'll say, okay, we want in or we want out. If we don't want it part of the program, send a letter back. There'll be a way to do it by phone, and there'll be a way to do it online. So it's not going to be a difficult process to not participate in should they not want to. And there is an opportunity for 100% renewable. That'll be an opt-in opportunity for them. So I think at this point, if you want to consider more questions and more whys and more information, you're going to have that opportunity beyond tonight, even if you pass the local law and the resolution. Thank you.
Yeah, as long as no, does anybody else have anything to say about this public hearing? Okay.
My understanding is that the default would not be 100% renewable. Is that 100% the case? Can I ask Mr. Barton at this point? Is that 100% the case? Let's say the price would be the brown nuclear package.
Could the village go through the default?
The 100% default without having the
Opt out.
just an opt
Not having
opt
opt
up. Because if you opt up, see, most people, it's human behavior, accept the default,
Right.
no matter how bad it is for them, because they don't want it, they don't really know enough. They have other things in their lives, frankly, right? So they choose, 75% choose the default, and that's the power of aggregation. So that those few who don't are very knowledgeable or really look into it or really know about the peer-reviewed literature on climate change and how much jeopardy we're in, they're going to go for that 100%, but it's not going to be powerful enough to make a shift. So we want the package to be 100%, the default to be 100%, and the opt-in to be the brown nuclear package. And that's not what's being offered, is what I've been told at every single meeting of megas.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good information to consider for the board. Does anybody else have anything for the public hearing for this local law?
But to answer the question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
To answer the question, I'm not sure if the renewable came in at a lower price, I'm not sure that we could make that the default. I don't know the answer. I'm not saying we can't or we can. I don't know the answer.
Something to definitely look into going forward.
But again, you'll have that answer by the time
Right.
you have to make a final decision.
Are we done with the public hearing now? Anybody else have
I
anything?
have a question, Mr. Barton.
Oh, okay, sure.
So as we move this process along, and whatever, a couple months from now, the bids come in and we can decide we don't want anything to do with it. When is the timeline for the residents to opt out of the thing? When do they have to do this by?
Once you've made the decision that you're going to participate in the program, you've decided to move forward,
Okay.
then all of the residents that are eligible would receive
Then-
notification.
It's not before that? It's
That
not-
we take care of, by the way. We take care of the mailings, but you're part of that, the creation of that letter. That's what the resolution does for you.
And then they have 30 days.
But I was just concerned that somehow they had to decide this before this.
All the education,
Not all that stuff.
education will take place first, yes.
So how far out do you see the time that we have to, the board has to make a firm contract?
We're going out to bid in early to mid-February. It'll probably be a 30-day bid process, so you're looking at sometime in March. Probably in the 1st of March. Yes.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
I guess I don't ever understand why it's an opt-out versus why you don't send a letter out for opt-in.
Well, Ms. Wiley kind of explained that, and I will too. It is that most people, historically, have just stayed in the program. When they deregulated electricity in New York State, most people just stayed with NYSEG in this area. Just stayed with NYSEG. It's easier. They don't understand it, so they just stayed with it. And so because of that dynamic, we get a better price because that's the assumption that the energy supply company makes, that 75–80% of the people will just go with the default. In this case, I'm not sure if it's not in true benefit to the residents that will be the case, because there's going to be a lot more education at the ground level than there was back when the NYSEG was putting out letters and such. So, but that's why you get a better price, because
Right.
the assumption is that the dynamics that have held true in the past will hold true.
And assuming that people perhaps receive a letter and don't either read it or look at it,
Right.
it just seems
But we
that
have
it should be an opt-in program instead of an opt-out.
I was just going to say, the way that the state law is set up, it's not the choice of the village to make it an opt-in program, is my understanding. It's by default, if we choose to go with the CCA type of program, then it's going to be opt-out.
The PSC
We
decided
did.
that.
Sure.
We did speak with Louise Gallo about this and asked some questions about this, and because some concerns about that. And so somebody that didn't turn the letter in or whatever it is in, they can always opt out afterwards. So they can opt out next week, next month. If they change their mind or if they didn't like it, they can always get out.
Right.
We did ask them, what if you opted out and then you found out you really liked it, you want it back in? That was a little more complicated about whether you could get back in, but if you just don't pay attention, you can always get back out.
Right. You don't just have the 30 days.
That was a protection for that.
You have more than just the 30 days technically. I mean, you might get a bill where you're in it, but then you can always get out of it or whatever.
Refilling cycles.
Right.
If the RFPs or the responses are due in March, when would the board have to make a decision about whom to go with then? I mean, is there a set timeline by which, so, the responses come in, Megan says, okay, here's the pricing, pushes it out to all the municipalities, okay, now you need to make the decision to participate or not. What's that timeline?
I don't know what that exact timeline is, but it will be that way, because when we flip the switch, they want 40,000 people to come on board, whoever the winning ESCO is, so
do you think
we're not going to be able to bring people on, different municipalities on over a period of 6 months. No, you will have
30 days.
I would think,
60
well,
days.
we understand municipalities, and we certainly are going to have to operate under the thinking that all municipalities don't meet at the same time during the month. So we would have to offer a timeline that allows all municipalities to have their board meetings.
And then were there any, so they move forward tonight and say, let's adopt the local law. Between now and when the board has to make that decision, will there be community outreach, starting basically next week or next month, so that people are educated in time for the board meeting at which the board has to finally make the decision, which sounds like it's going to be sometime in March. I mean, we're talking a pretty short period of time here.
We are, and that'll be one of the things that once you're involved, once we get ready to put the bid out, we will start working with all of the municipalities in terms of how they want the information to be generated to their community. Some may just say, let's have 3 towns get together that are nearby. Let's have public hearings in each municipality. Let's make sure that the penny saver, the Binghamton Press, radio, television, all of that will be determined, and you will have input on that. And just as an aside, today I spent an hour on the phone. We're already starting to organize our meetings and who's going to be where, and we're planning that already. So the outreach and the education will begin just as soon as we can.
So what input would you need from the village then? I mean, and how would you be getting that? Because would that need a village board meeting?
No, if we need to, we'll reach out individually by email or phone or whatever and get your ideas. We want, all the communities aren't the same. You may take a very rural community and posting it on different bulletin boards gets the word out better than anything. In some communities, they have different newspapers. I think in this community, the penny saver, everybody reads a penny saver for some reason in this community, and that's one way that the word gets out. So WVO probably would be another part of this community's outreach plan.
Okay. Anything else for the public hearing?
How can you even hope to reach the public with what is not simple information? The education so far has been on price with very little attention to what CCAs were really set up for. And lots of facts and lots of things to do, but they have nothing to do with what we're really aggregating for. So how are you going to communicate that? It seems like a gigantic waste of everyone's time, including the boards. And if we didn't have other ways to get our energy that's renewable or any way else, because I just want to quickly show you that every month I put this out, and it's a way you can choose 100% renewable energy on your own anytime you want. You know, these are the current prices, the current conditions, the cancellation rates, everything. I put it out online. I'd be happy to give it to you to put out online, and everybody has access to these. We don't need an aggregation unless it's for something that we can't quite get on our own because it's a half a penny more, and that's why we need to aggregate for 100% renewable. And I've heard at every meeting that we're not going to be doing that, so I would not spend another minute on this if I were on the board, but I'm not.
Okay.
I'll spend 30 more seconds and then I'm done.
Okay.
I'll trust that whatever I've said is either enough or not. First of all, the people that want to take advantage of the plans that Jerry just talked about can do that. They've been able to do that in the past, and you can do that in the future. They can opt out of our plan and go into that. The second thing is, we don't have any different difficulty in educating people than Jerry would with her plans. We're going to do our best. I'm sure if Jerry wanted to, she could do her best, has done her best to educate people. So you just do your best to educate people and hope you get to as many as possible. And I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you. And I don't want to get into a debate with Jerry either. So.
Well, thank you, Doug.
We're good, we're good.
Jerry, you want the last word?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay, Fran?
Yep, just go.
Okay, now, can the village decide to opt out of this program too,
Yes.
once we're in it?
Oh, once we're in it, I don't know.
It's harder.
Oh, the village cannot opt out,
For 18 to 30.
just the individual
2 or 3 year contract.
clients can.
We'll be stuck, I would say stuck, but 2 or 3 year contract or something along those lines. We'll have it for that long.
Right.
The last 2 cents, thank you, Steve,
Yes.
was that other states, like Illinois, have referendums and they allow it to go out and not, so you don't have to opt out, you get to choose. That's real choice. New York just doesn't happen to be a referendum state, so we're like, you're in unless you're out. I just think that's so undemocratic.
All right. Anybody else for the public hearing? Okay, we'll close that.
Okay.
7:31. All right, so we probably need to have a discussion of this with the board.
If you're going to take action tonight, you'll need to review seeker as well.
Right.
Just, I mean, you can discuss, but if looks like you're going to take action tonight, then we'll duck to seeker.
Okay. Anybody have discussion?
I'm just curious as to what the mix is for NYSEG. I mean, I really don't pay attention to my bill, how much renewable, how much, all I know is I pay the bottom line. And what that would be comparable to what we might be proposed from CCA. I mean, if it's roughly the same mix and we can save money.
I didn't see that.
And here's the difference, your second question.
Because I agree, when NYSEG did it, it was very confusing, and all these different companies, so I just stayed where I was because I didn't want to make a mistake. I didn't want to be caught with my bank account being drained because I chose some predatory practice. I mean, the one benefit I do see to this is that it would eliminate those people from coming to our neighborhoods and trying to prey on people who may not totally understand the system.
That's true. And I guess one thing I see is the law doesn't tie us to participating.
Passes, it's okay.
Fran, you got anything?
Kind of gives us the option to participate.
Well, so if we pass this law tonight, it means that we want to be into this program for now. But then we have 2 months before we have to commit ourselves completely.
Yes.
Right.
We have 2 months to educate.
More research of what they're offering, I guess.
And they'll bring to us a proposal, the one that they've decided upon, and we'll decide whether we want to be in the program or whether we want that particular price and company. So,
Can we tell them that we want totally renewable, 100% renewable?
oh, they won't do that. We could tell them that, but that's not what they're going to aggregate.
They'll go with the cheapest price, basically.
Actually, that was a question I
It's
had.
more expensive.
Does every municipality have to agree to the same provider?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so we would have to agree with Newark Valley, Nichols, whoever else is involved.
That's the aggregate, one.
So you get the-
Right, so we couldn't just say we want renewable and they want something else. We'd have to come to a compromise.
Right.
Okay.
So part of that also, I think, would be what went into the RFP, what was requested of the ESCOs. And theoretically, if there was another CCA operator out there working to focus purely on 100% renewables, they could find communities that wanted to be aggregated in a 100% renewable program. But that's not what Mega has put together at this point. I'm not sure if there would be the support necessarily for an aggregation in this area that looks purely at that. I mean, you'd like to think that there would be, but that's a lot of, that's just I think probably the facts of the
The pilot in Westchester did.
But let's say that we go down this road and we pass the law. The law doesn't tie us to Mega as the CCA. So if we pass this law and then we opt out of their program because we don't like whatever, 2 years from now, the village board could find a CCA maybe that is 100% renewable, whatever.
You could even create your own, I think, and do it in-house if you wanted to. The downside to doing it that way is you need to do it. And it's
You'd
complicated.
have to manage it, yeah. That would be complicated. But the law doesn't really hurt unless we act on it, right?
When you say hurt,
We're not
It doesn't
obligated.
obligate us to anything.
no, again, my understanding is exactly as it has been explained in a couple months when the RFP is sent out. Actually, the results are back in and the lowest competitive bidder has been identified. Then there's going to be a notice to you folks saying, now you need to decide by whatever the date might be. I get the feeling then, given the rolling basis, it's going to be quick, but probably maybe end of March or early April would be the final time. So you will need to make a final decision as to are you going to do this or not by that point.
Right. Trustee?
So understanding what Ms. Wiley told us, or recommended about not spending time and energy on this, notwithstanding that, we are not in other than our time and energy and focus, we are not in a losing position to pass this resolution and law. We actually are still reasonably ignorant of all this, so we're going to learn more about this as we go along. Maybe you'll have an opportunity to convince the village board as we go along that this is not a good idea.